Before we move into deeper CSS, I know it's important that we learn a little bit more about color and how that works, because we're going to be using it a lot with different inline, embedded, and external CSS style sheets. So first up, I wanted to give a little tutorial on how to use color in different ways. And you can see here we have names that we can use in color. We can use what's called hexadecimal. We can use RGB, and we can use something called HSL. And we're going to go in a little further depth on HSL and RGB and even hex a little bit. But for simplicity's sake, there are multiple ways of doing that. On hexadecimal, it's probably worth discussing briefly how hexadecimal works and how one might count with that. And so over here, typically, because we have 10 fingers on our hands, we count in tens, right? And that looks like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10 digits there. And when we get to 9, we hit 2 digits, right? And then we go all the way up till 99, and then we can hit 3 digits across. And that's kind of how we're used to counting. Again, this is what we call 10-base counting. And if we're going to look at binary, where let's say we only had one finger, on our one finger, here we could say, all right, we have no fingers up, and then we go all the way up, right? And count all the way up to 10. But on here, let's say we had one finger, and with binary, we either have no fingers on our hand or just one finger. And then to go to 2 digits, we would go to 1 0 and then 1 1, and so we'd count 0 1 1 0 1 1 1 0 0 1 0 1 and so forth, and you can kind of figure out how much that might be just by looking at if we have a number. Let's see here, let's go 8 4 2 1 and 0, and if we had a number that was 5 digits long, 0 1 0 1, we could kind of look at, I probably should, let's do like that, 4 digits, okay, because that 0 doesn't really count. We would know that we have 1 8, right, 0 4s, and then 1 2, and 0 1s. So you can kind of match these up, right? You have an 8 that will turn on here and a 2 that we would turn on. And we could add that up, and we would know that that would equal 10 in our numbers if we were to count to it, right? This really has no point other than just kind of learning how to count a little bit in binary. But hexadecimal, the way you need to think about this is if you had, 16 fingers on your hand, right? And if rather than counting up to 10, we could keep counting farther. So we could go 0 up to 9. And rather than saying 10 to signify extra fingers, we can say A, B, C, D, and F. And together we have 16 fingers. And after we get beyond F and we go to that second digit, we would start counting it, we'd put 1, and then we'd say, 1 1 and 1 2 and 1 3 and 1 4, and then we'd get up to 1 9, and we would say, rather than going to 20, we could still go to 1A because we have more digits, and 1B, 1C, 1D, all the way up. And once we got to 1F, we'd have to flip that second digit to 2, and we go 2 0 2 1 2 2 up to 2F, and then we would go to 3 0, right? And we'd continue counting all the way up until we got to FF. And the number of digits that equals is 256 if we go from 0 to FF. And that, we could actually almost say that's 0 0 to FF. And so when we look at hexadecimal, if you've ever seen one of these numbers, and we've got lists of them here of the different colors, you can kind of read this in these first 2 digits as the color red. And we can see the second 2 digits as green and the third digits as blue. And so it's really easy to determine how much red you have by those first 2 digits. So if we say FF, we know that we've maxed out the amount of color of 256 red, and 0 blue and 0 green, right? And then if we go 00 FF 00, we know that we've maxed out the green. And so when you look at a number like this, you can kind of tell how much color you have in each one of these. As we kind of go down through these colors, you can see, how much red would be put in here, and 80. Pure red would be FF. And we kind of go down through each of these. And so kind of important. And you can see RGB values here. 255. Really, it's 256 characters because they're counting 0, right? And you can see here if white would be maxed out FF, 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 and black would be just straight zeros. You can also do a shorthand with the triple digits, and it basically just signifies the first. See, like this FF 0000. The first one would be like an FF, and then the 00 and the 00. But this is just a short explanation, a little bit more on hexadecimal. Last but not least, I want to kind of talk about web-safe colors. Older phones, different devices that didn't have a huge color palette had to rely and kind of fall back on these types of colors. And so often it's a good idea to use these if you're going to be using and building a website that uses many, many colors. I don't think this is as important anymore, but again, it is just an item to note in case you are making something that might be viewed on a device that does not have the full color palette, the 16 million colors that are available to most people.